Hello, and welcome to another edition of Inside Compliance. I'm Erica Salmon-Byrne, and here in the studio with me today, I have Susan Frank-Divers from AECOM. Susan, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure, Erica.
So, just in case our average audience member isn't familiar with AECOM, I thought we'd open with just a couple of minutes about the company, how you all came to be, and all the various places in which you're doing business.
Sure. Well, AECOM is the #1 design firm in the world according to Engineering News Record. And we're a large engineering infrastructure and architecture and design company.
Okay.
And we're working on, I think it's about 8 of the 10 biggest infrastructure projects in the world, including the 2nd Avenue subway and the #1 World Trade Center.
Wow. Okay. And so, if I recall correctly, you guys are in China.
Yes.
You're in the Middle East.
Yes.
You're in Russia.
Yes.
So you're in some of the most challenging jurisdictions from a compliance perspective that really are out there.
Yes. We're in more than 100 countries.
And how many employees do you have?
We have 45,000, and about more than half are outside the United States.
Wow. Okay. So that really is, from the perspective of compliance, that's a tremendous challenge for you to both reach that audience and communicate effectively with them.
Yes, absolutely. And the company's growing, so we're making new acquisitions all the time.
And most of those acquisitions are existing private companies?
Yes, they are.
So you have to introduce them to the idea of working for a public company in the first place.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things that I've been really impressed with in looking at the program that you've built at AECOM is the partnership that you have with corporate communications. And so I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about that because it's not a natural fit for a lot of people in compliance. As you and I were talking about before the show started, about 70% of compliance officers, according to SCCE membership records, have JDs. And so a lawyer and a corporate communications person, that's not always a match made in heaven. So can you talk a little bit about the relationship you've built with corporate communications and why it's worked so effectively for you?
Sure. Our company's won 6 awards in 4 years for ethics and compliance. And the #1 reason why we've done that is the good partnership that we have with corporate communications, as well as the incredibly strong support from management. And I can talk later perhaps a little bit about our work with audit. But getting back to corporate comms, when I came to AECOM 4 years ago, my belief was that you could have the best compliance program on paper in the world, but if nobody could understand it, then you didn't really have a good compliance program.
Absolutely.
So luckily I had an excellent partner with Paul Gennaro, our head of communications. And from the beginning, we worked together to figure out how to best communicate to our workforce, who are in all kinds of different time zones, speak different languages, come from different cultures. And we really believe very passionately in making that happen.
So what's worked really effectively for time zones, cultures, all of these different factors that you've mentioned? You guys have done a lot with video.
Yes, we have. Well, we start from the premise that you want to have rules, tools, and schools, but you want to make those really available to people.
Right.
So we started with a really good factual website where somebody in China in the middle of the night on the East Coast here could access a simple, easy to read, accurate summation of what do you want to do, what do you need to do due diligence on a third party to avoid a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act problem. Or somebody in the Middle East could look and see what the facts are on anti-boycott. And most recently, in the last couple of days, we've just put out, both through social media and on the website, a summary of what's happening in terms of sanctions as a result of the Ukraine. So we started there, and then we moved from the website really into videos. Short videos that we've used a lot of Second City's products, for example, but we've also done a fair amount in-house in video, and we're finding that those short, appealing, easy to understand videos are a very good way to communicate.
And it plays into one of the other trends that we've been tracking, which is the fact that the average attention span for the adult learner is getting shorter and shorter. One of the statistics that I've seen recently that I've been quoting a lot is that we now have at least here in the United States, an attention span that's 1 second shorter than the average attention span of a goldfish. I don't quite know how they measure.
Scary.
I don't know how they measure the attention span of a goldfish, but
Right.
but you know, the argument is basically that, especially with the advent of technology and all of these different competing mechanisms for our attention, you have to be consistently engaging the learner to get them to pay attention for longer than 8 seconds. And so, so the use of things like video, for example, is certainly something that we see a lot of companies contemplating. You guys have gone a lot farther with it, which is part of the reason why I was so eager to have you come on the show. The flip side of that, because you all have been experimenting, what hasn't worked?
One and done really doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think most people in the ethics and compliance area are beginning to realize that you can't just simply put out, you know, here are the 5 facts about anti-corruption compliance,
Right.
and expect that everybody A, gets it, B, understands it, and C, can do it. So it has to be an ongoing effort to really communicate at lots of different levels with people, and to make it easy for them, and to make it efficient, and to make it actually an engaging process, so that it's not just, you know, a visit to the dentist or whatever.
Yeah. Right. That's a good standard to use. You want your compliance communications to be more engaging than a visit to the dentist.
Well, that's setting the standard a bit too low, I think.
So, so you mentioned, you know, obviously we spent a little time talking about corporate communications. I think one of the things that I've been particularly impressed by with your program is that you guys have figured out a way to make everything sound like the company, which for a combination of a lot of different organizations into one company is a real challenge. How did you and Paul work together to find that voice?
Well, we were very lucky because our management is absolutely solid, and they're very willing to make statements or participate or support the program in any way, both from the top and through the middle as well. So if you have the top people in the company putting out a message that's echoed by the middle management, and then that's echoed really at the workforce level, that's a really good way to speak with one voice.
Yeah, and that is a challenge, you know, reaching middle management. It's something we've been hearing from a lot of companies these days, is something they're really struggling with, is they've got the buy-in from senior leadership. They have, you know, if they're lucky, they have the buy-in from senior leadership. They have the tone at the top set. They've given the senior management team talking points, but the challenge they've had is getting the regional leaders, the business heads, to pick up on those messages and then cascade them down through their units. Given the global reach of the company, how have you guys successfully made that happen? Do you have performance evaluation standards that play into that? What are the triggers you've been able to pull?
Well, we use more positive inducements. I think performance management's check boxes are a little punitive.
Right.
Again, we work with the communications team throughout the world, and when we see an opportunity for a message, for example, anti-boycott compliance in the Middle East,
Right.
then we ask the regional executive for that area to put out a message, and nobody's ever said no, and in fact they frequently exceed expectations. They take the initiative at the holiday season and put out messages on appropriate gift giving,
Right.
and entertainment, and so I think people have come to really value the ethics and compliance work that we've done, and we see it as a market differentiator as well. So the business team really doesn't need to be prodded very much to do that kind of communication.
So you make it easy for them, it sounds like, right?
Right, we do.
They don't have to make this up themselves. You work with corporate communications to give them the tools and the talking points that they need. And then the second thing I heard you say is business differentiator. So you all have found a way to talk about yourself as a less risky business partner in some of these challenging regions.
Yes, we have. And that to me is a real sign of success in the company, in that it's become part of our brand, and people are very proud of that. Our recent employee survey had an engagement rate of, I think it was 84%.
Wow.
It was by an outside provider, and 83% of the employees said that ethics and compliance was a key strength of the company. So it's really been internalized, and part of that pride and that identification with it has led to people stressing it when they go to compete or work with clients, customers, and we're in the middle of putting together a toolkit for everybody to use that will make it easy to put logos and facts about the program and the recognition that we've obtained out there when people need it.
That's great, because the idea that, especially in the space that you're in the countries that you're in, the idea that you can differentiate yourself based on the strength of your risk mitigation programs is a fantastic achievement for the program. Switching gears a little bit from CorpCom, who have been your other really good partners in the organization? One of the things you and I were talking about ahead of time is how many new compliance officers there are out there. You know, we're seeing a real differentiation in the space right now of people who have been doing it for a while and are, you know, very sophisticated with mature programs, and then a tremendous growth. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is projecting a 15% growth in the compliance space between now and 2020 in terms of the number of compliance officers. So you have a lot of brand new people. What would be your other piece of advice to a brand new compliance officer of who should I go partner with inside my organization?
Well, you should partner with as many people as want to work with you.
Right.
But a key for us has also been our head of audit, Pete Florstedt, who's going to be accepting the WME award with us tomorrow night. And partnering with audit has been another absolute bedrock of the program. We're lucky in that Pete is an experienced head of audit and very creative and very proactive. So we've been able to launch proactive programs with audit that also have the effect of educating people in the F&A team, the finance and accounting team, and then they become much more aware of what good controls are.
Okay.
So Pete, again, deserves the credit for the success of the program. I'm just sort of the behind the scenes person, sort of asking people to get together.
Creative and proactive aren't two words that you often hear about a head of internal audit. So
Yes.
that's terrific. So it sounds then like he's been a partner with you on educating people on his team how to look for good controls, make recommendations when they're in the field. So in many ways, he's been an extension of your staff.
He has, and to give you a concrete example, in the last couple of months, we shot an impromptu video with a senior audit manager and someone from my team entitled Worst Practices. And it's slightly humorous, but it goes through the kinds of issues that can come up when someone's doing an audit and talks about them in a way that I think people can understand without being threatened. And the whole point of the video is to enhance internal controls. And that was a partnership between compliance and audit and communications.
Wow. And so who's the audience for a video like that?
Well, it's not general because you don't want people to misunderstand it and think, oh, it is okay to sort of raid the petty cash.
Right.
It's really the F&A team, the finance and accounting team, as well as Pete's staff in internal audit can send it out before they're going and doing an audit. And it sort of introduces the business team to, you know, what some of the issues can be.
Right.
And it also shows a high degree of professionalism on the part of the senior auditor who participated. So I think it's reassuring to people as well.
Right. No, that makes a tremendous amount of sense. So partner with audit, partner with corporate communications, rules, tools, and school. Was that the?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And you know, one and done is never going to work.
Definitely.
Well, Susan, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Inside Compliance, and we'll see you next time.